I wanted to go to college, and I just had to figure out a way I could go to college with a kid. And that's what I did. So I went to college. Life hit. Now I'm with one kid, and then I have a second kid. So they're 4 years apart. I have a son. I just wanted things different for them. I felt that there was an opportunity to do things different. That upbringing kept coming back into play. How do you do things differently? How do you make an impact and move forward?
When people tell me I can't do something, I just look at them and smile, and then I go on about my way, because you're never going to tell me I can't do something. Everything that I went through made me stronger. So when you had kid number one and then kid number two inside of you, I'm sure you said, by any means necessary, I'm going to make sure that I give them part of the life that your mother was able to give to you. Hello everyone, Dr. Lisa L. Campbell here, back with another episode of the Growth Motivator Live. Today's guest is one that I invited to have a conversation about a topic that is near and dear to my heart. And that's about women breaking the glass ceiling. As a healthcare professional, I've seen multiple times where there are individuals that are in position as a woman, and then there are individuals that are in position as a man, and how they break the ceiling is totally different. A man could break the ceiling in 5 years or less, even a year, with no experience, but a woman has to prove herself over and over again. Now, if you add in another layer, being a Black woman, you can't even see the ceiling that you're trying to break. So my guest today is Miss Benita Gibson, who is a powerful leader. And I want to allow her some time to just tell you a little bit about her background, how she started. And really, I want you to see the journey that she went trying to climb the mountain to get to the ceiling, to open up the ceiling, and pave the way for women leaders to come. Hi, Benita.
Hi, Dr. Lisa. Thank you for having me today. And what a journey it has been. What a journey. I'm from Chicago, south side of Chicago, came up in the community of Roseland, went to a public school, Christian Finger High School, and I am the youngest of 8 kids to a single parent and a twin. So, some of the things as far as breaking that glass ceiling, trying to see it, a little bit about my background. Being the youngest of 8 kids was unbelievable, an impact on today's Benita. You learn teamwork in that household, raised by a single mom, a stern mom, and being the youngest. One of the things I would say in the upbringing was not just learning how to fend for myself, but learning how to work as a team player. Because in that household, if twin got in trouble, I got it with them. So I think that upbringing was a huge impact to the person I am today. Again, I grew up with a single parent. I went to high school and I became a single parent in my senior year of high school to a young daughter. And people told me then that you're just going to be a result of the neighborhood. You're not going to break that chain of having kids, and you're not going to do anything. But I was a straight A student in school, and I wanted to go to college. I wanted to go to college, and I just had to figure out a way I could go to college with a kid. And that's what I did. So I went to college, and I learned some things in college. I graduated from college, and life hit. Now I'm with one kid, and then I have a second kid. So they're 4 years apart. I have a son. And in the midst of having my son, I just wanted things different for them. I felt that there was an opportunity to do things different, and that upbringing kept coming back into play. How do you do things differently? How do you make an impact and move forward? So that's just a little bit about me, and I'm sure you're gonna have some questions that I can elaborate on a little bit further into this conversation.
Thank you so much for that introduction. What you've been able to achieve is a direct result of being raised by a single mom, then being a single mom yourself. I don't know about you, but I'm going to tell you about me.
Okay.
When people tell me I can't do something, I just look at them and smile, and then I go on about my way because you're never going to tell me I can't do something. I too was raised by a single mother. I saw her struggle to just get our basic needs met. And as a black woman, and this is, not about a black woman or a white woman, but I can only speak to my experience. My mother struggled, but she always had a smile on her face. No matter what, if she said she was going to do something, she figured out how to do it. And while I didn't have, a fancy house growing up, I had a roof over my head. We never lived on the street. And so when I became a single parent, I took those same values with me on my journey. Was my journey easy? If I had to do it all over again, would I? No. Because everything that I went through made me stronger. So when you had kid number one and then kid number two inside of you, I'm sure you said by any means necessary, I'm going to make sure that I give them part of the life that your mother was able to give to you. 9 versus 2, that's a big difference.
Yes, it is.
So tell us about a time when you experienced a significant challenge, whether it was personal or professional, and how did you overcome it?
Well, what I would say, a significant challenge, there's probably multiple ones, but the one that plays a huge role on me is um, I was working in Nashville, Tennessee, and I had my daughter with me, and my son was in Chicago with his dad. And there was an opportunity to go and work in Des Moines, Iowa for a company, a manufacturing company, and they were on strike. So my daughter's in Nashville with my sister Rose, and I go to work in Des Moines, Iowa. It started out for 2 weeks, but it ended up being 9 months. So you and I both have had kids, so 9 months, a whole term, a whole pregnancy term. And I went through the picket line because it was my job, right? And the things that they were striking for had nothing to do with me. What I saw was an opportunity to have a better income, to be able, again, to be able to provide for my family, and to be able to go through that day to day operation of a picket line was something I had never, ever thought or dreamed of having to experience. But again, it was a part of my journey that made me even stronger to be able to be in the place that I am today.
Wow. So how was it crossing that picket line? Was anybody saying anything to you, doing anything to you?
So I'm in a car. It's four of us. We're sharing a car, and we were non-unionized employees, so we were part of management. And in the midst of it, I was the only female, and none of the males looked like me as far as the same skin color. So yeah, they rocked our cars. You know, they called names, and I remember being chastised and being told, "Benita, you can't say anything to them." So in the midst of it, I just looked at the end result, and it was my paycheck, and it was for the purpose of what I was doing it, and I just went for it.
So, one of the skills that you just displayed was emotional intelligence. And probably back then it wasn't a thing, emotional intelligence. But sometimes it's okay not to have a response,
Yes,
not to have a facial expression about how you're feeling. You just keep smiling and then you go home and cry. Or you go back to the hotel and cry. Or you go in the car and cry. And that doesn't make you weak. It just makes you smart because you know how to let the world know I'm all right. Even if behind closed doors, you're not all right.
that is correct.
That's the strength of a woman. I'm sure men have that strength as well. But women, we definitely, and maybe it's from, childbirth, that we know how to be strong in the midst of obstacles.
Yes.
So, speaking of obstacles, how do you stay motivated when you're faced with obstacles or setbacks?
So, my motivation is always being a leader, representing not only myself, but others. If I let you mention, then like you may go back to the hotel and cry or something of that nature. If my team, my family, my peers, my friends, if they see me, strong Benita, in a midst of, oh my God, how are we going to do it? And she's struggling with this. I can't motivate them. So it's not a fakeness per se. It's just that at that time, I have to do what they need me to do. And it also results in what I need to do. So that motivation is to just keep it moving, keep it moving, keep going forward. And in the midst of going forward, that is my motivation. And then at the end of the day, when I see the results of, the promotions, the opportunities, the graduations, it just means the world to me. That's my motivation.
I love it. I love it. You are definitely the definition of a true leader. Because sometimes individuals are promoted, they're not supported, and they just sink.
Yeah.
But when you learn how to swim and stay afloat in spite of, that just does nothing but makes you stronger. But you're also setting a good example for your daughter and your son because they see mom was a single parent, but she wasn't a victim to her circumstances. And not to say it was perfect, but you just kept going.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. So, can you share with us a routine or a habit that has contributed to your success?
I am a fan of rap music. So I like old school, I like jazz, but when I listen to rap music, I feel like I am in that setting. Usually on my way to work, I am bumping something, whether it's Tupac, Biggie, some old school. I might even listen to Little Durk because I support the people from Chicago. But I like to hear that energetic music, the lyrics behind it, and kind of put myself into that situation or remember a situation that I may have been in the past. And it gets my adrenaline going for the day. And then when I get out the car and I close the door, voila, I'm ready for the day. That is one of the routines. My sister told me I would be 50 years old listening to that rap music. She referred to it as that rap music. And guess what? Definitely am north of 50 and I still love it.
You know what? One of the things I loved about that you shared that you listen to rap music is that some people have this perception that when you reach a certain level or you have all the things, that you forget where you come from. And that could not be, you know, true. It's not true.
No.
We don't forget where we come from because we're standing on that foundation of where we came from. So listening to some rap music, and I have to admit, I just found out who Little Dirk was. I think he was at a Bulls game we went to, and he came up on the screen. And I had to text my daughter and say, "Who is Little Dirk?" And she's like, "Where is he? Let me get his number." So, but I too like to have music that really levels me out. And I get out the car and it's like lights, camera, action. I love it, love it, love it. So, how do you approach setting goals?
So goal setting was kind of a difficult thing originally for me because I was just jump in and do whatever, right? Not more so of a plan, do, check, adjust. I was just jump in, fight the fire, let's go for it. And then I had to learn how to get a little bit more organized. And how do I go about setting goals? It probably had to happen with my last career. My last career, I came in and, I felt it was a great opportunity, but maybe not where I wanted to be financially upon the initial offering. And I still have that sheet of paper. I wrote it down. I said, every year I got to get promoted and get this amount of a raise so that I can be here in X amount of years. And I looked at that every year, that sheet of paper, and checked off if I was there, advanced, or behind. So I try and plan a little more better with the things that I want to achieve. And I write it down. Yes, I use laptops. I'm, efficient with the computers, but I still like to use pen and paper and write things down.
Something, I don't know, therapeutic about writing things down. My husband, Paul, kind of, I don't know if he laughs at me or if this just drives him crazy. But when I have something that I'm working towards, I take out a Sharpie, some paper, sometimes poster boards, and I plaster them all over the kitchen, all over the dining room. And as I go and achieve one goal after the next, I just cross it out.
Awesome.
Because there's this saying, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. And that's couldn't be more from the truth.
Yes.
All right, so who is the person that has been a major influence in your life?
I haven't been asked that question in a while, but I really believe that I have a mentor, and his name is Ken Hunt. Um, Matter of fact, I had two mentors, so I don't want to discredit the person that I worked for back in 1995, Paul DeGeese. So Paul was very influential on me going back to school and finishing my education. And back then I made great money. And I was like, why would I go to school? I'm making great money. And he's like, Benita, go to school. That will show that you've accomplished something, and that's nothing that can take away from you. And it took him probably 3 years to convince me to get into school and get my bachelor's degree. And the day I graduated, he's like, now are you going to get your master's? And I was like, are you kidding me? But that was his influential impact on me to go back to school. But Mr. Ken Hunt, a phenomenal man from Pine Bluff, Arkansas, and he saw something in me in my last career. He would always say, people think I'm giving it to you because you're a girl and you happen to be African American. He says, no, I'm taking a chance on you. It's up to you to take those steps to move forward. And he would not let me get comfortable. Every time I got to first base on a job and about ready to hit a grand slam, he moved me to the next level. So those two were very influential on my education and in my continuous career development. Those two men, and it's surprised that two men were the most influential on me.
Well, I'm definitely surprised, and maybe not surprised because my grandfather and my father have been a major influence in my life.
Mm-hmm.
But I think sometimes we see the opposite sex as someone that doesn't understand you, doesn't support you, help promote you. But one of the things that you mentioned, which I think is important, is having a mentor. I personally struggled for a very long time because I was always the person that was mentoring everybody else, and I didn't have anyone to mentor me. And I kept growing, but once I got a mentor, a coach, that's when my life started to change in the direction that I saw in my dreams. So you mentioned education, and we got to talk about this education thing because there is this perception that because you have this degree, that made you all that in a bag of chips. So I just want to know. I want the listening and viewing audience to know, were you who you are before the degree?
Yes. I did not get my first undergrad degree until I was 32 years old. I started school at 18 in college with my kid, but I didn't complete it. So I had a major impact on my career without an education. The education, I feel, set the boundaries for no one to tell me no. If it said you need a bachelor's or a master's, I could definitely check it off. But then I had the experience as well.
I love it. All right, folks. So now you heard it here. The degree enhances what you already have.
Yes.
I think about, something similar but different. My bonus daughter, Raven, she always has been able to style hair. And when she went to school, I said to her, actually just recently, I said, Raven, did going to school make you better at doing hair? And she said, I already knew how to do hair, but what I learned in school was the proper way to care for hair, to utilize the tools that we use as a licensed cosmetologist. And so I'm glad that you said that you were 32 because you were well into your career at that time, because the degree, in my opinion, is not for you. It's for everybody else that wants you to prove that you are who you say you are.
Yes. Yes.
Love it, love it. All right, so how do you deal with failure?
I try and keep that out of my vocabulary. I look at it as failure, but opportunity, right? And so I'm very competitive. I always have been. Sports, played it. I'm just very competitive. And as a woman, I feel that we needed to prove ourselves that we could do a task and get it done. But then I learned, do we really need to prove ourselves? Why are we afraid to fail? Because we see men fail all the time, you know, um, no gender, nothing, but they fail all the time. And it's okay. But when we fail, we are more harder on ourselves than they are. And so when I look at failure or opportunities, it's just an obstacle that I need to get over and move forward. So I look at it as opportunities like, oh my God, what happened here? What can I do differently to not let that happen at the next phase?
You know what? So powerful. So I'll tell you a little story. When I decided I wanted to do the Growth Motivator live, I started to make a list of how I wanted the show to go.
Mm-hmm.
We had to have all the equipment. And for a moment, just for a momentarily pause, I started getting caught up in the mess of how the show was going to be executed, in terms of, oh, I got to have this camera and I got to have this microphone. Oh, I got to have this type of carpet. When I started to focus on the message, I decided that as we grow in the production of this show and how it's presented to the world, it would improve, because it has to. Because my husband and I, because he's the producer, we are learning faster than we're growing. And so when we get to point A to point B to C, we've learned so much about the process that it just gets better and better and better, just like a fine wine.
Yes.
So I wanted to give that message, because I think a lot of people are in a holding pattern because they're so focused on the how instead of the what. You know what I mean? And so that's important that folks know. If you just get started, it's just like riding a bike. If you just get started, you might fall off the bike. And if you just keep going and going and going, you will get to your destination.
Yes.
So tell me about a time when you've had to step out of your comfort zone and how it led to growth.
I feel like I'm always stepping out of my comfort zone. I've worked in manufacturing. I'm not a hands-on, like I don't know the difference between a nail and a screw. I don't know that difference, right? But what I am is a constant, let me learn, show me what you want, you know. So I feel that listening skills are a plus for me. And to be able to listen and understand what you're saying and to see where we're trying to get going. Once I understand and can see where it is that we're trying to get going, then it's it's hands down, I'm going to deliver on those results. So having to learn and understand some of the skills that I may have not possessed, it's okay. So I'm just constantly learning. I'm learning a day. Right now, I'm learning some things. But those are just some of the things as far as like skill sets, just listening and trying to understand what the end results need to be. And then let me drive it there. Let me figure out how to get it there.
So now I understand how you've been so successful. You just keep learning, learning, and growing and growing and learning and learning and growing and growing. So you are a lifelong learner. Doesn't necessarily mean that you're going back to school, but you're constantly learning so that you can be successful when you get to that growth point.
Yes.
Kind of like project management, where you have a predecessor task before you can get to the next one. You are preparing yourself at that moment for that task, and then you're preparing yourself or positioning yourself for success for the next one before you even get there. And that's how you've been able to be so successful.
Yeah. There was not a map, a road map for me to get there. I just stayed in the lane. Sometimes I made a turn, sometimes I did a quick U-turn, and then I just got back on track.
Awesome. So, how do you balance taking risks with being strategic, but also thoughtful in your decision making process?
I feel, I feel like I've taken risks my whole life. And so, how do I balance it? First of all, I really calculate. Um, I'm so obsessed with safety. Is it safe for me to do this move? Whether it's safe to move some money, where it's safe to take the next step, whatever that safety net is, I'm like super obsessed with it, right? So when it comes down to risk, I really try and calculate it. Like, is this going to impact me now? Or when I'm looking at it, will it impact me, a month or two down the line? So when I look at some of the strategic moves that I've made, fortunately for me, I've never bidded on a job. I've always been promoted, right? And it's like, hey, Benita, we want you to take this opportunity. And I'm like, when? Monday. It's Wednesday. So I need to move to another state next week and just get going, right? And so I just really look at risk as, again, that word, opportunity. And then once I get there, I, visualize where I'm at. I listen again to see what maybe the needs are. I'm not a quick jump off the cliff tomorrow. Let's make all these changes. I observe everything. And then that risk becomes, if I'm observing something that may be too high, elevated of a risk, I'll impact my input at that time. But if not, I'll just observe it for about 30 days and then I make my moves and we make the moves together. And people are very respectful of you being respectful of the things that um, they do on a day-to-day basis, or that they look at themselves as professionals in their task. I'm just there to enhance it.
Again, definition of a true leader. There are some individuals, and recently I've encountered women who are put in the position of the leader, and they got to throw their weight around the first week, let everybody know I'm large and I'm in charge. But what winds up happening is that they destroy an environment and make it toxic. And in this age of the age of the Great Recession, you can't afford as a leader to come in and make all of these changes that you didn't need to make because you're just trying to show everybody that you're in charge.
Yes.
So I want to wrap up, but I want women, men, everyone to learn just one piece of advice that you would give to someone that is so caught up in the how versus the what that they need to do to break that glass ceiling?
The how does matter, right? The how matters. But it's your impact. You know, I could be the greatest person in whatever the environment I am in, right? But when I leave, if it fails, I did nothing. So when you're looking at the how, it is the what. When you leave, can it continue to perform at the levels that you left it at, or will it get better? But if it fails and steps backwards, you missed your opportunity. You missed the target. So the how does matter, but you got to understand what it is that you want your impact to be.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. I have enjoyed our conversation today. As a healthcare leader, one that is often brought in to either be the closer for a department or one that's being brought in to try to navigate a toxic situation, I've learned a lot in terms of some things that I can do to make a project stronger, especially what happens after I leave. Will the department or the organization be able to stand up after I'm gone? Or if 30 days later it all crumbles?
Okay, great.
All right, everyone. Again, Dr. Lisa L. Campbell here with another Growth Motivational Live episode. Until next time, I'll see you real soon.